Welcome everyone to Couch Potato Diary. Happy Tuesday. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Trying a couple of things on the stream today. So if y'all in the chat could let me know if things are syncing right and lined up, okay, that would be greatly appreciated. Trying to expand a couple of things here. So if, just let me know if stream's looking okay, sounding okay, all those different things. All of that would be greatly appreciated. As always, this show is presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca for all your great Calgary swag. We got the Cannons hat. They brought down the stadium, so that kind of sucks out here in Calgary. But get the Cannons hat available now. As always, we get the fuel for this show with Swift Energy. Go to swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PKPrimetime for that 25% off. And for those watching on YouTube later or listening in podcast form, all of these are streamed early on twitch.tv/primetimepk. I say all of them. It's not exactly all of them. We did the Sunday show, and that one was just taped, and then, they're all taped, but you know what I mean. Didn't go live with this one. So anyway, enough rambling. A lot to get to on this show. I've covered it in a couple of other spots, but haven't on the podcast yet, so just want to give some final thoughts on the Four Nations Faceoff. We got a lot of boxing to get into as we went from one gigantic fight card to another gigantic fight card. So that was kind of cool. So we have that coming up here in the next little bit, previewing that. WWE RAW from Monday and the AEW on Wednesday is coming up, plus MLB season previews continuing. So it's all over the place as we tape the Tuesday and Wednesday podcast for you guys today. So let's jump into it. Let's get the Tuesday podcast started as we take a look at some of my final thoughts on the Four Nations Faceoff. So the Four Nations Faceoff is now behind us, and I don't think there is any way you can describe it other than just an absolute shining moment for the National Hockey League. And the final game, it was an unbelievable game to wrap up a fantastic tournament that gets its golden moment at the end, with Connor McDavid getting his first real big international moment. Not quite the golden goal, but still just a fantastic moment in all of that. And he was so good all tournament. The championship game was definitely his worst game. And in best on best, it's tough to stand out in the way that he did. You know, it's tough to really make that type of an impact and stand out amongst the best players in the National Hockey League. So for him to look just as good in that game as he would against Columbus on a Friday is remarkably impressive when you sit down and you actually think about it. One of the things, because I liked a lot of this, I think you can kind of tell, I liked a lot of how this tournament ended up and how it all kind of played out. One of the things I really did enjoy was this got to be a bit of a victory lap that Sidney Crosby, I think, definitely deserved. It kind of felt like one of the sub-stories of the whole tournament was this celebrating Sidney Crosby and this respect that the entire National Hockey League has for Sid the Kid, so to speak. And it kind of reminded me, honestly, very similar to what we saw with Mario Lemieux in 2002, where like a big part of that was just like, Gretzky's gone, this guy is still here, and this guy is still amazing. Hey, Toxic, how's it going? I was saying before, we're trying a couple of things on the stream and everything today. So if you could just let me know if everything is synced up, that would be just very much appreciated. But no, it was great to see Sidney Crosby get his flowers in a way that I think was richly deserved. And I feel like sometimes we don't celebrate people while they're actually doing what they should be celebrated for. And so for him to get that, I thought was really great that they were a lot of people showing kind of their support and their celebration for Sidney Crosby. Jordan Binnington stealing the show in the last game. He answered a lot of questions about him in that final game. In overtime, he was brilliant. It was like big chance after big chance that he shut down. I don't want to be super negative. I do want to push back a little bit on a lot of people owe Jordan Binnington an apology. It's like, look, like, I doubted him in that game. 100% I did. We talked about it on here. I still would have started him given how everything played out. But I had my doubts around what he could be and what he would be in that championship game. But one great game doesn't erase the three other ones where he was just kind of That doesn't, oh no, actually, in hindsight, he was phenomenal in those games. Like, that's not how memories work. So let's not go too far on this. But yes, I think we can all appreciate that he had a good game. Thank you for the heads up, Toxic. I appreciate it that everything is looking good so far. That is actually a gigantic sigh of relief. Going to try a couple more things as we kind of roll on here today. In that final game, Mitch Marner was excellent. He is so talented that the big problem, or the big moments, have always given him big problems. And I have thought before, and it sounds like the utmost excuse making, but I have thought before that it was a little bit he was trying too hard in big moments for the Leafs and just like wanting it too much. And again, I know that sounds like excuses, but I genuinely believe that when it comes to that guy. But he seemed to channel it all in that gold medal game, and he was just absolutely excellent. He bookended the tournament really well. He got the great start against the Swedes, and then a fantastic gold medal game there. This was a leveling up tournament for a few Canadian players. I think later on the week, we're going to do a full kind of stock watch, like who went up, who went down in this whole thing. But a few players just on Canada that really stood out. Braden Point did not look out of place among the top players in the world. He had an excellent tournament, and I think he could really be kind of the Iginla coming out of it. Remember back in 2002, and they talked a lot about this when Jarome Iginla was retiring, and they were retiring his number, out here, and all of that. And it was like, you get to 2002, he goes to the camp, and it's like, oh, I'm not just here. Like, I belong here, and I might be better than a lot of guys here. And then as the tournament goes on, it's like, oh, damn, I'm beating everybody. Like, I am one of the best players in the world. And it just kind of leveled him up into another stratosphere. I wonder if it could be that same way for Braden Point. Obviously, success has not eluded him Stanley Cup-wise in the way that it did Jarome Iginla, but I feel like Braden Point could be someone who comes out of this tournament with a new sense of like, no, man, I played with the best players in the league and I belonged. And so I wonder if there's a bit of a boost there. I thought Brandon Hagel played his role perfectly. He was everything you needed from a checking forward, and I think his stock really does get elevated coming out of this one. Same thing with Josh Morrissey. I thought like he misses the last game, but I thought he was brilliant all tournament long. His speed, his skill, his awareness, all of it on full display. I really enjoyed watching him play. And I don't know how you don't think more highly of a guy like Thomas Harley, who filled in really well. Kid coming in cold to that setting. And again, didn't look out of place even for 1 second. So bravo to him for putting on that sort of a performance. The grinders really stepped up too. Like, Brad Marchand is not what he used to be. That's very clear at this point. But his awareness on the ice is so high. Like, I don't think he gets enough credit for the hockey brain that is behind that punchable face. It was remarkable the amount of times that you would find a guy wide open and you go back like, okay, where did that come from? Oh, it's Marchand finding him. And just his vision out on the ice and the way that he knows where everyone is and how to draw defenders to him and create openings for his teammates was a treat to watch, really. So happy that we got to see that from him. And Sam Bennett came to play. You know you're not going to get that type of energy all year long, but one of the things that people were talking about here in Calgary when he was kind of doing his thing and not very effectively is that he was trying to do too much. And it was a lot of like, I'm going to make 18 different moves and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and whatever. And I had kind of said, like, let's not try to take the skill away from this guy. And this was one of the cases where I think I was wrong on that, because I think he is best when he is, I call it a table hockey guy. Like, okay, this is your lane and you just go up and down it really, really fast and you crash into shit. And sometimes that takes you to the net and you put the puck into it. Cool. That's when he is at his best, when you just simplify it. And he simplifies his game in the big moments so effectively. And it is what makes him, I think, so special and what brings playoff Bennett out every single year. On the other side, this one is obviously going to sting for the Americans. They had so much talent on this team, and they had that game. Like, overtime was right there for the taking for them, and they just couldn't quite get it. We don't have to rehash the game. It's about a week ago now. But Just quickly, a couple of guys again who step up in this tournament and kind of level up here. Jacob Slavin, I thought, was phenomenal in the gold medal game, and I have always said, oh no, he's a good defenseman in the NHL. But he showed in that game on Thursday, that he is one of the best defensemen in the world. And just that quick reaction, timing it perfectly, knocking the puck away from Sidney Crosby in that chance in front is exquisite. Like, he was just, again, an absolute shutdown guy in some of the biggest moments in that game. And for him to step up in that way was very impressive, again, with McAvoy dealing with the injury issue that he was dealing with. I do also think, like, a guy like Boldy really stepped up. Dylan Larkin, I think he reminded everyone of just how good he is. Like the short area speed and quickness that he has are so good. He always seemed to find himself in the right spot. And Boldy, Minnesota doesn't get a ton of the attention. Larkin, Detroit hasn't really been relevant for a little bit, but these guys reminded you, like, hey, by the way, some very good players on those teams. Talked about Slavin already, and Jake Sanderson, he did not look out of place as a seventh defenseman. So, again, overall, this tournament delivered everything you wanted it to. It was an amazing appetizer for the Olympics. The player buy-in was exceptional. Basically, every game delivered. You have a classic finish. It got the buzz in the States that you really wanted to see, and that has been one of the overall frustrating things about the NHL not doing the best on best for as long as they have, is you have this golden era of American talent, and you're not showcasing it on these big stages. Well, now they have. And you get the amazing for them comparison, and remarkably unfair, but amazing for them comparison to just a piss poor NBA All-Star weekend. And this magic, it was exactly what the NHL needed, this whole tournament to be. So bravo to them, and cannot wait now for the Olympics coming up in 2026. So that is just some final words on the Four Nations Faceoff. Sorry. Moving on now to the world of baseball. It is just about the start of the baseball season. It's actually going to be here quicker than you think because of the games out in Japan. And so we are starting the MLB previews. We've already gone through who we think are the best players in Major League Baseball. Well, now it is time to look back at the champions from yesteryear and figure out how we can learn from what they did. It is time to see how the Los Angeles Dodgers built their championship-winning club. The Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series the last time we saw baseball that counted. But how? Let's take a look at how the Dodgers built their championship team. And I can already hear, like, as soon as you say, okay, how did the Dodgers build their championship team? There is going to be a segment of baseball fandom that says, oh, they just they bought a championship is what they did. Swig of water for the workman. And, I mean, yeah, there's that, like, I'm not going to, well, no, actually, the free agent acquisitions of Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman actually weren't the biggest reason. I would love to come on and hot takery you guys like that. That ain't the case. We know, like, they acquired their three biggest stars. That's, yeah, we can talk about draft and develop until we're blue in the face. That ain't what happened here. These guys brought in some big names. Those big names played like big names and won a championship. I'm not going to say segment over because I still think there's a couple things that we can learn. But let's run through it. Let's start with the fielders, batters, if you will, shall we? Shohei Ohtani rather famously signed a contract with them for a whole lot of money. A lot of it he's getting later. He wasn't on a flight to Toronto, and he signed with the LA Dodgers. And again, it went very well. Mookie Betts was acquired along with David Price for Jeter Downs, Alex Verdugo, and Connor Wong. And so I just wanted to see, because this obviously feels like a one-sided trade. And so I want, okay, benefit of the doubt. Let's see what ended up coming of those guys. Well, Jeter Downs, I don't think is in baseball now, or at least not, Major League Baseball. Alex Verdugo, not with them anymore, but picked up 8.2 WAR along the way in his time with the Boston Red Sox. He got traded for a couple of guys who thus far have given Boston 1.2 WAR, and you have Connor Wong who has presented them with 4 WAR so far. So overall, what is that? 8.2, 1.2, that's 9.4, and then another 4 is 13.4 WAR. All right, that's not That's not a disaster. I mean, over 4 years, it's, 3-ish a year. So, how much has Mookie Betts done, though? 27.4. So it's as one-sided as we remember it being. The Red Sox got human beings out of it, and some of them played baseball, and that's great for them. But this was one-sided ass-kicking of a trade in just remarkable fashion. And also, and this doesn't have to just be a complete rehashing of the Mookie Betts trade, but the astronomical amount of dumbassery to throw in David Price in there to clear him off of the books so that you get less of a return for Mookie Betts. Real dumb. Hate that you did that. Really hate that you did, especially because now you didn't. I mean, Trevor Story, that didn't really work out. So, hate that you didn't spend it in ways that were very effective. And now all this is going to bite me in the ass when, okay, signs over there next year. But still, Freddie Freeman, free agent signing, that one, it just kind of felt like he was locked on the Braves for forever coming off of a World Series. And then he wasn't. And he signs with the Dodgers and hits one of the most memorable home runs of the last 30 years en route to a World Series championship with that club. Teoscar Hernandez was also a free agent signing. After the Blue Jays traded him to the Mariners, Teoscar had a chance to go anywhere he wanted in free agency, and he picked correctly. Will Smith, first-round pick, technically a compensatory pick, but he was drafted 32nd overall in 2016. The 2016 draft is real bad. I'm just going to let y'all know that one right now. 2016 was awful. 2 All-Stars have come out of that draft so far. Both of them were in the first round of that draft, sorry. Both of them were in the first, in the compensation part, and one of them was Will Smith. So the Dodgers, and this is a big part of a lot of why they are as good as they are. Because, and this is, the Blue Jays have proven this isn't 100% accurate. Anyone can just buy superstars. What these guys do, because we've seen that forever, right? Everyone has tried to go out and, okay, this is our big free agent. This is our big signing. This is our big this. This is our big that. Everyone does that. What these guys did behind them was so impressive with Will Smith finding that gem late in the first round. And we'll get to a couple of others, but that's how you win. That's how you become this model franchise. Yeah, they spend more than God on a lot of things, but they also develop in a very effective way. And I don't think they get nearly enough credit for that. Miguel Rojas was a shortstop. They acquired him from Miami for Jacob Amaya, who was then traded for a pitcher. Just a quick note, Amaya turns actually okay out of the park baseball in some of the not most recent forms of that game, but a couple down the line. So if you ever replaying that one, that's a name to watch. Max Muncy, free agent signing in 2017. And so you think, because Max Muncy has been very good for the Dodgers, like, oh yeah, there it is, another free agent. No, they signed him before he was arbitration eligible. He made, in his first year with the Dodgers, he made $485,000. So this wasn't a big ticket guy that they got. This was a dude just cast away. They picked him up and turned him into a borderline superstar for this ball club. Gavin Lux is one of the misses. They've now traded him. I believe Cincinnati is where he is at now. But he was a first-round pick, 20th overall in 2016. And that one, it hasn't clicked in the way that I think a lot of people thought it would. He just hasn't really found that extra gear that people thought he might have. He's been fine, but just didn't hit in the way that a few other Dodgers have hit along the way. Kike Hernandez was acquired from Boston for Justin Happerson, minor league pitcher, and Nick Robertson, who was then traded for Tyler O'Neill. So Boston gets a little bit out of it. O'Neill didn't turn out to be amazing out there, but there was interest in him at the time anyway. And Kike turns into, again, one of the premier playoff performers and great personalities on that Los Angeles Dodgers team. You also have Andy Pages, the center fielder, signed in free agency in 2018. And last one here, Tommy Edman was acquired in a 3-team trade that also brought Michael Kopech over from the Chicago White Sox. Moving into the pitching staff, you have Jack Flaherty, who was acquired from Detroit at the deadline for a couple of players. You have Yoshinobu Yamamoto, rather famously, a free agent signing as well. Also didn't go to the Blue Jays. That was great. Walker Buehler was a first-round pick, 24th overall in 15. If injuries don't get in the way, that kid's an ace right now. And so again, you draft an all-star catcher and an all-star starter in the back part of the first round. I'm not saying like every year you go along and, oh yeah, no, there's a hit. Oh yeah, there's a hit. Oh yeah, there's a hit. But they get enough to supplement everything else that they are doing. And so, yeah, they're getting these big ticket whatevers, but they're also getting very valuable contributions from guys not making a whole lot of money and then building that up. And now Buehler is on his way out to Boston. Blake Treinen was a free agent signing in 2019. Ryan Brazier was a free agent signing in 2023. Michael Kopech acquired in that three-team trade along with Tommy Edman. You have Brent Honeywell, who was a waiver claim. You have Anthony Banda, who was purchased from Cleveland. Evan Phillips was a waiver claim. You have Ben Kasparins, who was a fifth-round pick in 2021. Daniel Hudson was a free agent signing in 2021. Alex Vesia was acquired for Dylan Floro. Floro ends up getting traded for Jorge Lopez. So when you see that, the Dodgers, maybe we could have gotten a little bit more out of that than a relief pitcher here, but them's the breaks on that one. So kind of rushed through a whole lot of that. And again, the big thing to take from the Dodgers is that it's kind of dope to have money. That's like, I don't want to oversimplify things, and it's not just that they bought a championship, but they did buy a championship. And the way that they did that behind it, because the Yankees tried to, right? Like they got Aaron Judge there, who, you know, it's their own thing. They got Judge, and then, you know, they brought in Juan Soto and Garrett Cole and all those guys. So why did their buying a championship not work? It's because their Gleyber Torres ends up like being Will Smith, right? Like they're just, okay, well, let's see what this guy, it's Walker Buehler. The Yankees didn't have that. And so they had to try to go out and piece together a Anthony Rizzo and try to get the most out of him. And he ends up making a catastrophic error at the end of the World Series. And DJ LeMahieu, who just can't produce anymore in the way that they need him to. And then they have to go out and kind of overpay for Alex Verdugo and have that kind of just black hole in your lineup. The Dodgers don't have that. It's not that it's 1 through 9 all-star, but because of their draft and developing, they did such a great job of kind of backfilling in a lot of those spots. So yeah, you can go out and have a bunch of money tied up in a few guys when Max Muncy's making $500K over there. And now he has grown from there. But then, okay, well, that guy has grown. Well, we just purchased one of our high leverage relievers from Cleveland. We got another guy who pitched in 5 playoff games who was a waiver claim. Like it's the small moves that they make that take them from great to championship. And it is why when the Mets ownership change happened, that's why they were talking about, we want to be the Dodgers of the East, because it is not just a team that spends a shitload of money, and they do, but they also draft, develop, and find a lot of gems out there in very effective ways. So obviously that is the big one, like late first round pick, with Will Smith, Walker Buehler, smaller free agent signings that hit. The other one this year that is different than what the team is going to be in 2025 is the pitching rotation really wasn't a strength. Like Glasnow was hurt. They signed Yamamoto, who was big, but aside from that, like Flaherty had an ERA of 7 in the playoffs, and like Buehler gets the final out in the World Series, but he was a little hit or miss. Like it was a very big concern going into the postseason what this rotation was going to be. Now they've supplemented that a little bit with Sasaki and Blake Snell this year, and, you know, Shohei coming back to pitch at some point probably, and Clayton Kershaw, I imagine, makes an appearance at some point this season. So again, they've done really well, and anything that may have been a perceived weakness, they can go out and get the best way possible to fix it. And that is because you're the Dodgers. You get to do those sorts of things. So could the Marlins pull off something like this? Probably not. But they could get a whole lot closer to it than I think that they give themselves credit for. They just don't want to spend in the way that they need to, whether it be on players or in player development. So a few messages to take away from how the LA Dodgers built their championship team. Let's move to the world of face punching now, as we had a gigantic card last weekend with Beterbiev and Bivol. It was the fight card of the century. I thought one of the best fight cards of all time. Check out the YouTube reaction for that one right now. But also this week, we now have another big one, as Tank Davis, another pound-for-pound fighter, is making his way back into the boxing ring this weekend with an interesting test. Let's break it all down in our Fight Night First Look. It is a very interesting fight coming up this weekend as Tank Davis is back in, a guy who is in the pound-for-pound top 10, according to this podcast, and many others. And now he is back looking to add to that resume. As we take our first look at Davis versus Roach, the thing that jumps out right away is obviously the Tank Davis resume. Mucho impressive. He is one of the best power punchers in smaller weight classes ever. Right now, it's him and Inoue, and nobody close. And in history, very few close to what Tank Davis can do with the power in those gloves. He is looking to add to that this weekend. He has fought 30 times. He has won 30 times. He has won by knockout 28 times. That, ladies and gentlemen, is silly good. It is a unbelievable record that he has been able to put together. And now you're starting to see a few more big names added to that, right? Like Ryan Garcia. Say what you want about Ryan Garcia, but he added to that. He has picked up some other big wins along the way as well, and he has turned himself into one of the biggest stars in the sport. And so that there is pressure. He is obviously the A side. I think that there is a real threat on the other side of the ring this weekend, but he is the A side. He is the big name, and a big part of that is, like, we have done a better job in boxing about saying, you know what? A loss or two doesn't matter. But still nice to see an O on those sometimes, isn't it? And so now Tank just has to make sure this isn't a banana peel to slip on, because there is a lot of pressure. When you are supposed to be the action guy, the knockout guy, the undefeated guy, that comes with a lot of pressure. So how does he handle that this weekend? He's handled it pretty good thus far. And to the point where there's already a lot of talk about what the next fight is going to be. Most are pointing now towards Shakur Stevenson coming off of a fight, at least, on Saturday. Now he bangs up his hand in that one, so we will see if Tank and Shakur can actually get into the ring and settle this thing. But this is another one of those fights. It's like Benavidez a couple of weeks ago, where so much of the focus is on what's going to happen next before we get to this one. And who he is fighting is someone who, in Roach, is kind of finally reaching the potential that a lot of people thought he had. A decorated amateur career. He won gold at the National Golden Gloves and USA Boxing Youth National Championship in 2013. As an amateur, he was 125-15. Two of those losses to Tank Davis. So there's some history there as well, trying to get that back. But there is no doubt this is the biggest fight of his career. And it is obviously the toughest test of his career. There are very few fighters in the world who are on Tank's level anyway. So when you are fighting him, most people who are fighting them are fighting their toughest opponent. But this is a huge step up for Roach. It's a 6-fight winning streak since a loss to Herring for the WBO Super Featherweight Championship in 2019. Since then, again, it's 6 fights in a row, but it's only a couple guys with Wikipedia pages, which isn't the best way to scout things, but it's not a bad one either. So obviously, he is going to be a significant underdog going into the fight this weekend. But this is also kind of a spot that he was supposed to be in when you go 125-15 as an amateur. So we will see if this is a real test for Tank Davis or just a minor speed bump on the road to a bout with Shakur Stevenson coming up later on this year or early next year. Coming up later on this stream, and for podcast and YouTube watchers later in the week, we are going to have the undercard fighters to watch on this card. This does not have the depth that we saw a few days ago out in Saudi Arabia, but still a couple of interesting fighters to keep an eye on, so that's coming up a little bit later on in this stream. Right now, we pivot to the world of professional wrestling as the road to Elimination Chamber made one final stop in Cincinnati, Ohio. WWE RAW. Let's talk about it. WWE RAW, the final one before Elimination Chamber. They had some questions to answer, and I think they did an okay job with it. Just a quick run through of what we saw. I say quick. Nothing on this show is ever quick. But you have Logan Paul and CM Punk. They do a bit of a back and forth. I am not one to give the Paul brothers any sort of credit at all. All I will say is Logan Paul is very good at being unlikable. Just spectacularly accomplished in the world of being unlikable is Logan Paul. And I guess he gets credit for that. in this world. For CM Punk, he has such a way of making every promo feel like it is a big deal and just like a moment that you are watching. I would imagine somewhere down the line, we get a Punk Logan Paul match here. I don't know if we'll get a full-on feud before WrestleMania. I don't anticipate this being the WrestleMania match, but I do think that we will get that build here at some point. Hey, Brady Hitman, how's it going, man? Thanks for popping in. Really appreciate it. Oh yes, no, Toxic. WWE has not made Logan Paul any more unlikable. He has just found an outlet for that unlikability. Yeah, that's that is very fair. Brady, we will get to the Cody Rock thing in just a second here. Just kind of running through what we saw from the show, but I will definitely answer that here in a second because I put up a video on this on YouTube. I didn't hate that segment as much as everyone else did. And I think there's a few ways they can go. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, it was Penta against Ludwig Kaiser and Pete Dunne. A fun triple threat. Like, Penta gets to show off how awesome he is. Again, Pete Dunne is a phenomenal base for him to do that. And Kaiser ends up getting a shit-eating win. So you get a couple of things out of that. I still think there's like a couple levels, that Kaiser could get to while Penta is just scratching the surface. We get the John Cena video package. Interested to see what they do with him coming off of all of this discussion around, again, to Brady's point, the Illuminati angle that was shot this week. And LWO against the New Day was what it needed to be. I thought the crowd was a little flat for this one, but you like the fire from Dragon Lee coming out after. He just gets drilled. Gunther, again, another reminder, and Toxic, we were so worried about this when this haul was going on about how, man, are they starting to turn Gunther babyface a little bit? Right around the time he loses to Cody and all those things, and that's, oh man, this guy's maybe, nope. And this is why you don't. Because he was just an unbelievable asshole to Akira Tozawa. Like the whole, we have some things in common. And then looks up at the crowd, not many, but some. That just, it's just such a dick move. And it's so good. And I honestly think there's a lot of points that he was making. Like, you moved your whole life over here to America to come to the WWE and do TikTok dances. Tozawa is certainly someone who I think would fall under the category of remarkably underutilized. And like, honestly, this whole thing where he is running through Alpha Academy, if they, like, we've tried the Otis being serious before and the haircut and all those things. But basically, if you just wanted to move those guys over to Gunther and just do the Gable thing, but better with Gunther, I actually wouldn't hate it. Like, I wouldn't mind an actual serious Tozawa situation here at some point. Probably wouldn't happen. Definitely wouldn't happen with Maxine Dupree. But I think there was at least something if Gunther needed another faction behind him. But that one seems a little bit more unlikely. Anyway, Tozawa firing up, crowd is getting into it, and then Gunther punts his brain into the 9th row, chops the bejesus out of him, and all of those things, and then eventually it comes away with a win, and then an otherworldly beatdown of Alpha Academy. Like, the sleeper where Tozawa's legs are dangling is... it just makes you look like such a dick, and just so dominant as well. And then Jey Uso runs out for the save, maybe a little late, and he kind of does a bit of, like, it wasn't full on, like, Matt Hardy is getting assaulted, and Jeff is doing this thing in AEW, but he took his time getting down there before Gunther slid out of the ring. It's like, hey, appreciate it, but maybe... gotta sped that process up a little bit here. Dakota Kai against Lyra Valkyria for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. I thought they both put on a very good show. This was a phenomenal match between the two of them. A couple moments that maybe weren't as crisp, but it was really entertaining, and it gets the crowd involved. And it has been my problem with women's wrestling in general for a while. There's no real story with it. And they're trying to tell one now here with Ivy Nile, and that is kind of the bigger thing, but you can't just, it's what they're trying to do with the tag team division right now. You can't just throw out match, and have it be, and now it's a storyline. That doesn't get people invested. Like, it was a fun match. It was a very good wrestling match, but we need to get a bit more emotionally invested in these characters here. And that's something that's been missing from women's wrestling, I think, in general, for a very long time. Sami Zayn's promo was fantastic, getting across the emotion of the moment. I'm happy he did not assault Kevin Owens' mother on his trip out to where they were living. So that's good of him to do. Braun Breaker against Dominic Mysterio. I think that there were a few DQ, we're getting a few more DQ losses here, but it still made Braun look like a monster. That he ran the ropes so hard. I saw someone on Twitter be like, does he hate Dominic Mysterio? Because that is the fastest I have seen him move in ever. And he hits that clothesline there. Brady, you can ask your questions whenever you want. I don't mind. I can scroll back to them after, as long as you understand that maybe it'll take me a couple of seconds to get to them. You can rapid fire as many questions as you want in there. I do not mind at all. But yeah, like I don't think we needed to save Dominic Mysterio from getting beat, but you do a DQ finish, and then Braun gets to still look strong, and then a bit of a face-to-face with Finn Balor, and I wonder if he's going to be included now in the Intercontinental title feud going into WrestleMania with presumably AJ Styles as well. And then we get to the Cody promo. And so again, Brady asking, I don't get this Illuminati angle for Cody and The Rock. So Cody, they did have some loose ends to try to tie up from Friday. And I said on a video that I posted on YouTube, I didn't think this was that bad. I think because I wasn't writing off this feud anyway after the Netflix thing and just kind of viewed it as, no, he's buttering up. He's being really nice. This is him being overly cordial to Cody instead of just completely writing off that feud. No, this is him trying to soften him up a little bit, and then eventually there's going to be a crack through there. Could that have been a little bit tighter than 27 minutes on Friday? But I still think that there are intriguing things that you can get to from this. And so Cody comes out and says, like, basically it should be no, but I have a family to think about. And he lists off, like, kids, wife, family, Brody's kids, all of those sorts of things. And so he has a lot of this. And then Seth comes out and says they fought against this last year. He makes a lot of really good points. And I think having Seth be the one to be like, hey, shithead, like, hey, my leg fell off last year to make sure that you won the championship. And now you're going back to him. That's kind of dumb of you. Also, I did this. I turned my back on my boys, and I went with the authority, and I've lived with that for forever. That I feel like that was really fantastic. And I've said on here a few times, I'm not a Seth Rollins guy. Like I find his promos to be very pro wrestling. You know, like I feel like it not for me. But this was great. This was very, very good. And so I do like the reference that Brady makes there with the Illuminati. Someone laughed at me for saying Illuminati, and then they said The Rock meant the devil and Cody's meant to sell his soul. That's literally the Illuminati. Yeah, like there is a little bit of that. And I think there's a few ways you can go with this. Like, I think if this were a video game, right, or a TV show, then I think one of the obvious ways is Cody goes with Rock. It's like, yeah, I sold my soul. And I think the breadcrumbs that they've laid along the way make it a little bit more believable that you can do that. Remember the promo that he cut right before Royal Rumble, the "Are you my friend?" that thing with CM Punk, where like it is obvious that the burden of being champion was wearing on him. And it's not just that he's champion, but he's champion and his friends are coming after him. Kevin Owens first got his title match in storyline because Cody was like, you deserve this, man. We're going to do it. And then it devolves into this absolutely brutal blood feud that ends with Kevin going neck first through a ladder. But that was a friend of his, right? And it led to his friend, Randy Orton, getting package pile driven. And now all of his friends, like CM Punk, kind of a friend, Sami Zayn, all these guys, like, no, I'm coming for you. Like, I'm happy for you. I want that spot now. And so, like, yeah, I got all my friends who are coming at me. And so you can make, for that character, you can make a legitimate reasoning for, well, if all my friends are coming after me, why wouldn't I go with the most powerful man in WWE and in a lot of entertainment? Why wouldn't I go with that guy? If these guys are going to be shitty to me anyway, I may as well make hundreds of millions of dollars being with The Rock and doing that sort of a thing. Obviously, like from a business standpoint, that would be the height of stupidity that they would do that. And I don't think that is a way to go with this even a little bit. But I do think because of merchandise and the story that you've just told and everything like that, like Cody is your big baby face right now. But if you just wanted to turn him into Homelander, you could do that real easy with a thing with The Rock. Another way they could go with and again, it is the merchandise thing probably, and the kids and all of that. Could he go with Cena? Or could Cena go with him? Like, Cena they've been preaching this desperation thing for forever. And again, I have a segment here. I should have found it but before I came into this. But it's the dumb ideas that definitely won't happen and wouldn't work even if they did, but it might work if it did happen. So you're telling this story of desperation for John Cena. Like, coming in, he hasn't won a singles match in 2,785 days or whatever the number is. And I'm not being hyperbolic by more than you would think. But you have, okay, it's, yeah, Cena is on a losing streak. He's lost to Solo. He's lost to Austin Theory. He's lost to all of these guys. And now his last chance is the Royal Rumble, and he's feeling it, and he's going for it, and he's eliminated. And so now this is it. This is his last WrestleMania. It is his last chance to be the guy. And he sells his soul to the devil, and he goes to The Rock. And that sets up Cena versus Cody as bad guy, good guy at WrestleMania. And even if you just did that for a couple of months, and Cody hits the Crossroads, and Crossroads the heel out of John Cena, oh, I think you could have a fun couple of months with that one, with Cena and Rock on the same side doing that as well. There's other ways that I think you could kind of do this whole story. And one of the criticisms I saw was that if you give The Rock this match, you are taking away the importance of the Elimination Chamber. And fair. But I do also think there's a way you do it. If you do the Cody thing earlier in the night, and you say, you know what, Rock, I appreciate it. I'm my own guy. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on my own. I appreciate you and everything you've done for this business, but I got to do this on my own. I did it once before against your guy, remember that? But I have to do this on my own. And so then The Rock is like, oh, okay, absolutely. Eat shit and die. And it sucks. I think, I don't know if Damian Priest walks into that Elimination Chamber. He has, and I think he is good, and you can, like, tell a story with his push and all those different things. But he has always kind of felt like one of these things is not like the other in this match. And so you have Rock come out, and as Damian Priest is going down, Rock attacks him, boom, rock bottom, whatever, and now Rock's in this Elimination Chamber. And he goes in. I mean, this is basically the same thing I suggested for Royal Rumble, where Rock made himself the 31st entrant and made his way in. And so, Brady, if you're still watching, I think you're very much seeing that a lot of my just, hey, what if, basically comes from, like, Vince Russo style stuff. But this is why, like, I should put my WWE Universe on Twitch, because, just all over the place. But, like, you could have The Rock come in, like, take Priest's spot, and now Rock's in the Elimination Chamber, and he wins his way to face Cody. Or you have them take him out. Jacob Fatu is the guy, and now it's Jacob Fatu against Cody at WrestleMania. The one I fear could happen. Solo Sikoa does that same thing, because Solo dragged himself back into the championship universe recently. And so I wonder if you get a bit of a kind of a double cross here. And so that's, frustrating. And, but I feel like you could do that sort of a thing. Or, and this is one that I kind of saw on social media. Remember when Drew McIntyre signed his contract his contract extension with the WWE? Rock personally gave him like a sword or some shit. But there was a social media thing, and they're hugging, and it's obvious they're saying something into each other's ear. And now, obviously, that is in real life a thank you or a, hey, by the way, my name's Drew. But in storyline, you could tell like that the seeds were planted that day that they were going to do it. And Drew McIntyre, who has been desperate all along to try to put an end to all of this, who is the one who is really going to put an end to Roman Reigns? It's going to be The Rock, and it's going to be with me, and I'm his corporate champion now. And Drew McIntyre goes into that. So I actually think that there are a lot of different ways that they can go off of this, where it actually makes sense, and it can actually tie in with a lot of different ways that they would go. Now, it's The Rock, and a lot of these things have been a little convoluted with him before. And so there's a very real chance that what happens on Saturday is real dumb. And I'm going to look like an idiot for having spent like 6 minutes breaking all of these things down. But I do genuinely think that there's a lot of different ways that they could go. Brady also saying, I think Heyman's favor for Punk will be revealed at Mania. I think that could be Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And I saw someone tweet this out today as well, that like Punk wins the chamber, but now Rock is putting pressure on him to give him his championship match. And so Punk calls in his favor, and it's Roman to take care of The Rock. And now you have Punk versus Cody. You have Roman versus The Rock. Seth is there, and you do it that way. Like you can have that sort of a match, and that sort of a build off from those two, and kind of tie in the favor, because there's obviously a story with the favor that Triple H wouldn't just put that out there without there being anything. But I do think that there is a way that all this ties together, and all of it actually makes quite a bit of sense. So that is why I'm so intrigued by this whole storyline. We then get to the main event. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez taking on Naomi and Bianca Belair for the Women's Tag Team Championships. This was excellent. The whole crowd was into it the whole time. Michael Cole was killing it, calling this match as it picked up toward its end. And at the end, you get Dom distracting the referee. Raquel grabs Naomi's leg and slams her into the post after the split leg moonsault attempt. Ends up getting to the pin. Really fun match. It frees up Naomi to go on and Bianca to go into a singles run. Jade comes back. We do that whole thing. Everyone's happy. We do that sort of a thing. And so I think there's some intrigue with what you can do there. And you get the tag team titles on Raquel and Liv. But this was so good. I was like, man, maybe we delay the Jade story a little bit more, because these guys crushed it in that match. And I want to see that again. So I think there are a few options off of that. But overall, this was a fine show. It picks up at the end. The first little bit took us a bit to get there. Like, nothing felt irrelevant on this show. Nothing felt, nothing was as bad as the Thunder Rosa, whatever the hell that was, on last week. But nothing was real blow away until you get to the very, very end. So, good episode, though, of Monday Night Raw. So, for those on the stream, that is just part one of everything today. For those watching on YouTube and listening in podcast, that is going to do it for the Tuesday podcast. Thank you all so much for hanging out today. On the Wednesday podcast, we are going to be more wrestling talk. Booking ahead, what is my pick for WrestleMania? I broke it up into two nights, what I think they'll do, or what maybe I would do right now, plus an AEW Dynamite preview. And for the sports watchers, we also have more MLB Preview, looking at the most talented teams in baseball and the fighters to watch on the Tank Roach card. So that is the Tuesday podcast portion.